Divorced men. What moment with your former wife made you think, "Yup, I'm divorcing this woman"? Story 1. 15 years in, and I find texts on her phone. Completely blindsided. No clue that she had it in her to cheat. Told me it was just texting. Begged for forgiveness. I caved. A month later, checked the phone bill to find out that it never stopped. Confronted her again. Cue more begging and more denial on my part that she wouldn't let the life we had built go crashing down in flames. This went on for a few months. So many promises. One night, I caught her on the phone when she thought I had left. Suddenly, it's not just texts. Sometimes it was phone calls too. Just a friend she could talk to that she let things go too far with. Promised to break all contact. Swore it was never physical. Then I found emails. She detailed things that made me sick to read, but also included descriptions of his house. She broke, finally, but swore it was all just in the line of duty. That's how she met, you see, visiting nurse service. And this guy was a client. Promised she was done. Loved me, you see? No chance she was going to let 15 years go like that. I wasn't buying it anymore, though. She announced she was going out one night with a work friend. Promised they were going to go to the bar. Then she'd be home. Maybe late, but not too late. She had taken over her phone account by then, but wasn't bright enough to understand that Google location was still showing me where she was, and I wasn't about to show my hand. She kissed me goodbye and beelined right for his house, and was there until the wee hours of the morning. Once I knew where she had headed, I called her dad and my best friend to keep me from doing anything dumb. I will love them both forever for keeping me calm while my world went freaking insane all around me. My father-in-law offered to stay with the kids and wait for her to get home. At around 3 a.m., while couch surfing at my buddy's place, she sent me a nasty text asking where the frick I thought I was. I texted her a screenshot of her little GPS dot at her boyfriend's and let her know that I'd be sending her some paperwork soon. Props to the father-in-law for being willing to help out even when it's his daughter doing all that. Don't worry, man. You didn't do anything wrong, and karma will eventually bite her back. Story 2. I'd found evidence of potential cheating. Despite this, I still was willing to work on things. I confronted her about her feelings towards me, not the cheating. When I point-blank asked her if she was interested in counseling or trying to work things out, she said no. That was the first time. It would have been better to have stuck with it. There was a tumultuous time after that where we flip-flopped and were trying to work things out. Sorta. She complicated things. I had broached the cheating with her, and we made rules during our maintenance period, one of which was that she was no longer to have contact with her friend that she was cheating with. I ended up finding out that she still was Facebook friends with him. When I calmly explained why this would hurt me, she turned it around that I was the bad guy. I started living with a friend at this point. During my drunken, half-sobbing tirade where I explained everything to him, I finally realized that I don't want to be with this woman anymore. She doesn't love, respect, or care for me at all, and I deserve those things. Moved out, moved on, and have since found a wonderful woman that I will marry in April, even though I figured I would never get married again. I got hurt. It sucked. It sucked really bad. I never expected to get a divorce. I took some time to work on myself and address the mistakes that I had made in my marriage and past relationships. I ended up finding a person who 100% is in sync with me and communicates like a mature adult. She is super smart and helps me through my emotions as I help her with hers. I did a complete 180 on marriage. It wasn't a struggle. It feels right. I thought long and hard after I had decided to get married that I wanted to make sure that I was not making the same mistakes again. I believe I've found my true partner, and each day I'm given more reasons to believe that to be true. Hey, glad to hear that in the end everything turned out good for you, man. Well done. I wish you all the luck in this world and hope that you're happy in the new relationship. Story 3. Me and my ex were always having ups and downs. Cutting up my clothes when I was out with friends, cutting my hair when I was asleep, random violence and screaming fits, the usual. We did the normal things couples were supposed to do, and it seemed to prolong the episode for a time. We bought a house, for example. Well, after we had the house, the next thing we needed was a cat. She loved it very much when it was a kitten, but as it grew up, it became more independent. It's a cat, duh. And she couldn't take this and became aggressive towards it. I remember walking in one day and she picked up the cat and threw it up in the air. It bounced off of the ceiling, and I threw her butt out of the house, bouncing her crap on the curb. Oh, and yeah, I kept the cat. Reply 1. It amazes me the patience some people have. The moment someone does some psycho crap with cutting anything up, I am frickin' gone. Whether that is my hair or my clothes, my next thought is, this person is gonna cut my dong off. They're just working their way up. Be glad that you got out intact, man. Story 4. We met and spent the first 7 years of our married life on the West Coast, then moved east. 5 years later, I took a job back on the West Coast, but it was the middle of the school year, so I went ahead and lived on my own until everyone could join me. Things hadn't been very good between us for a while, but I hadn't articulated it to her, or even myself, beyond vague feelings of dissatisfaction. One weekend, out there on my own, I decided to take a day and drive to one of my favorite towns, a town in which I had lived long before I knew her, a town which we had visited often while married. It was late afternoon, and I was about to head back to my hotel when I realized that I could visit a particular beach that had special meaning to me from my earlier life there. I stopped at a convenience store, grabbed a grolsch like I used to drink on that beach, and drove out there. Hiked out to a specific spot I remembered, sat down, popped the beer, and looked out over the ocean. And it hit me that I hadn't done that in over 20 years. Whenever we'd visit the area, I'd suggest stopping at the beach, but she wasn't interested and would always veto the idea. I'm sure reading this, it seems like the tiniest thing, but it was just the catalyst for me to realize how completely dissatisfied I was with our relationship. I think from the time I sat down, I knew it was over within about 10 minutes. Just sitting there, sipping my beer, looking at the ocean. Story 5. She had lost her job again after quitting a decent one because she didn't get along with her boss. Anyways, a few months go by and I'm doing everything. Cooking, laundry, dishes, yard work, etc. I'd asked the kids what mom does all day, and they said she plays on the computer all day. The final straw for me was when I came home from work and had to wash dishes so I could make dinner. Dinner is made, so I tell family it's ready. She comes to get a plate and serves herself first, instead of our youngest child who was 4 at the time and couldn't serve himself. As I watched this unfold, it dawned on me. If I'm gonna do all the work, I might as well do it myself, or find a partner to share the load with, because she clearly didn't want to be on my team. To those mentioning depression, yes, she was, and maybe still is. She was on meds for it, and we went to counseling after the birth of one of our kids, and she had postpartum depression. At this time, she stepped out on her marriage with at least 3 guys. I finally got proof with hidden caller ID and a voice-activated tape recorder hidden under our bed. Yep, got to hear them fricking. Long story, but we stayed together. I don't know if the counseling helped or not. I also need to add that she was never good with money, blew a small inheritance in record fashion. She would give me money for joint bills, and I was handing it back over so she could put gas in her car or when she had her own bills due. One year we got a nice tax refund, and she promptly tells me she owes her stepdad $2,000. What the frick? How come? Anyways, I still stayed. This was something that had been building for years. Story 6. Sometimes when my ex and I used to fight, she would decide that she wasn't going to go to some function or honor plans we had previously made, sometimes very last minute, like hanging out with friends, dinner with my family, etc. For example, we got into some argument, and she decides to not go to my only sister's wedding. By the way, the wedding was that day. A year later, she did the same thing during a fight. She threatened me again, telling me that she decided to not go with me to Texas for a reunion with some guys I served in the Marines with. I didn't fight it this time and just said, okay. Several days later, she actually tried to turn it around on me, saying how mean I was for not wanting her to come with me. I told her that I was actually relieved that she was not going. I could hang out with my friends that I hadn't seen since I got out, and it would be nice to not have to worry about her crazy, insecure drama. That realization that I was going to be happier without her was the moment that I knew we were done. Good thing you broke it up, man, and stopped the suffering. A good woman can make your life 100 times better, but a bad one, man, a bad one can make your life 1,000 times worse. Story 7. When she asked me to take the kids on some errands, has kept me celibate for months, saying she is asexual now, and once I leave, invites some guy over to tongue lash her for 45 minutes and then drop a load inside her in the bedroom without a condom. All on the day before Father's Day. Thanks, Amy. Not divorced yet. This happened last week. Her life is in such shambles, I am not even mad. Story 8. We had a trial separation and lived apart for a month. During this time, I vented off some of my frustrations to one of my best friends. Come to find out, said friend was frickin' my wife behind my back. They both attempted to manipulate my emotions so that I wouldn't think anything suspicious was going on. But god damn it, my intuition always had my back. Always trust your gut, folks, even when your head isn't where it should be. Story 9. My son and I were watching Netflix on my wife's phone, and then her boyfriend texted her. It was 12 at night, and he said he missed her and couldn't wait to see her again. Typical, I know. I confronted her and she denied it and said that it was her friend's daughter that was texting my son. My son is 3 and the daughter in question was 2 and barely speaking. Story 10. She got drunk on Christmas Eve and told me that she had been using Crystal M again and that she would always be an addict because it was her first love and it was there for her when she was a teenager and when her mother died. She finally said that she loved it more than she loved being a wife or a mother and that plenty of people lead normal lives while still being users. It crushed me. She was so hungover the next morning that she missed Christmas at my parents' house with our 3-year-old son. I tried to speak to her about it for the next few weeks and she refused to acknowledge the conversation. And things finally came to a head when she started inviting a couple of known H dealers into our home regularly and threatened to move out when I asked that she not bring them around our house or our son anymore. I told her we needed to talk with me, her, and my parents who were trying to help. She flipped out and disappeared for a few days, and when she tried to come home, I had her crap packed up already. Yeah, it's one thing to do drugs and hurt your loved ones, but it's a much worse thing to expose your children who haven't done anything wrong to that type of stuff. You maybe should have kicked her out and cut all contact in between her and your son even earlier than that. People, please pay attention to who you marry and build a family with. Story 11. There were many reasons, but this was the final straw. My grandmother was on her deathbed. My ex took this time to throw a childish fit because I ordered food that she didn't like. I realized at that point how completely miserable I was and how frickin' short life is. So we divorced. She took all my money and my kids, plus child support, and I've still never been happier. And every time I have to interact with her, it still blows my mind that we made it 9 years. I guess when we were together, I was so trained to comply and overlook things. I now see what an absolutely toxic bully she is and was. Story 12. When she falsely told our marriage counselor that I punched her. The next week, she denied saying it and accused our counselor of lying. He gave me a "you should leave this relationship" look. I took that look as permission from a professional that I definitely wasn't making the wrong decision. Got divorced and never looked back. I legitimately feared for my safety towards the end. Not that she would hurt me, but that she would make a false accusation to the cops or a crazy friend. Story 13. My wife was around less and less, had to be free to live her life, go out with her friends. More often than not, she would call me to pick up our daughter from daycare, after promising to pick her up and have some girl time. Just tell her I'm working late or not feeling well. She always had something better to do, and the kids were old enough to know better. I went to pick our daughter up one day, and when they called her name, she came running over until she saw it wasn't Mom. Again. Then slumped her shoulders and slowly walked over to ask me, "What's her excuse this time?" That was the breaking point. Told her to get out. Even helped pay the security deposit to get her out. Story 14. During the last year and a half of our marriage, she became extremely psychologically abusive. She was a narcissist, controlled my every move, would isolate me, refused physical contact. I was just an extension to her life, was not allowed to talk to any female, was not allowed to hang out with any friends, or she would ignore me for up to 5 days at a time. Double standards everywhere. Verbal abuse, and the list can continue, but it hurts to think about. The last straw for me was when she threatened to kill me because I came home from work late, even though she knew I would be home late. It was just a little too late for her, and she also threatened to hit me the same day. This was the second time this happened, and I talked to several people at work about it, and they suggested that I run. I had texts of the threats on my phone and contacted a lawyer that same week. She agreed to sign since I told her I would take severe legal action if she didn't. Thankfully, no children, and it was a clean divorce. And I am happily divorced. Story 15. Not a wife, but a fiancé. Just called it off because we were house hunting and she kept wanting to look at houses that would accommodate an extra permanent guest, her estranged father who she was wanting to reinitiate ties with, but wouldn't admit to it. Found out from a buddy that she was wanting me to lay out the money for the down payment and then was going to break it off herself and fight like hell to keep the house to herself. 2 years down the drain, but a lifetime of a fortunate near miss. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future. And also don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.